Hello.
Now, now how we ended up meeting is pretty unique. A buddy of mine up in Abilene, he saw that the news was going to report about Gulf War illness. And so he was like, hey, you need to check this out, which I don't get where I live around Houston. I don't get, Abilene news. But he sent me the links. I got to look it up. And I tried searching for you all over Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, everything, So I sent them an email explaining, about my podcast and such, and they forwarded over to you, and I'll let you take it from there.
Okay. Yeah. Well, last year in 2020, I was made some comments on Facebook on a website there, a thing about Gulf War veterans. And I had gotten on there and made a comment, question, if you will. And I'd asked some people if they were experiencing some of the same things that I'm experiencing. And I got pretty good response, but somehow I can't remember the gentleman's last name. He was in the Navy, and his name is Mark, and he's a news broadcaster in Maryland, and he had saw that, and he wanted to do an interview with me. So he tracked me down, and we did an interview early this year. And so that's on the Gulf War illness, where I was, what I went through, what kind of environment, environmental hazards was involved, and what the VA is doing for me and all like that, because he's wanting to expose what the government did to us and what the VA is doing for us now. And he wants to make sure that the government, that the Congress is make sure they're accountable, and the VA is accountable for treating us.
That's awesome, man. That's really cool. So, Stephen, I want you to tell everybody what branch of service and the years that you were in.
Okay, I was in the Air Force. And I was in from July of 89 to October of 93.
Okay. And where were you stationed in the branch?
I was stationed in Madrid, Spain, and we had deployed to Doha, Qatar. And Qatar was a country, some people call it Qatar on TV. They're freaking idiots. It's not Qatar, it's Qatar. I mean, even the locals over there, they would say, please go back and tell your country, we are not Qatar, we are Qatar, So everybody calls it Qatar is not pronouncing it right. But anyway, that's where we were. It's just straight south of Kuwait.
And you worked on jet airplanes, correct?
Yes, sir. I was a jet mechanic on F-16s.
Wow, man. That's fantastic. That's awesome. So
yeah,
where was your home port?
It was in just outside of Madrid, Spain.
Oh man, I bet you that was gorgeous.
Yeah, we had a good time. It was a culture shock for but we adapted, and we had a good time, and we worked hard. We enjoyed our job, and we kept the jets up in the air.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. Now let's talk about your experience over in the Middle East.
Okay, yeah. Well, we took, I can't remember how you pronounce it, the PB tabs, or we call them P tabs. You know how I pronounce it, Kevin. And yeah, we come on, and they started announcing that we had to take them every 8 hours religiously, and we was not to miss any. And if we did, then it was going to be big trouble. And if we refused to take the PTABs, then it was an Article 15. We would get announcements over loudspeakers every 8 hours, reminding us it is time to take our PTABs. Whatever we were doing, it did not matter. We were to stop immediately and take our PTABs. It was very, very important. And supervisors would walk around periodically, and they at will, they could ask, I want to do a PTAB check. and they would look at our little thing there, like birth control pills, and they knew exactly how many tablets was supposed to have been punched out at that hour. And if you had too many or not enough, then you were in big trouble. I mean, it had to be right on the money.
Wow.
So I mean, it was like the Gestapo, basically. I mean, they made it very apparent that this is no BS. We're not playing games, and you better play by the rules. If not, you're going to have hell to pay. And then we did that for a month. Every 8 hours, we took our PTABs, and then all of a sudden one day is around 2 or 2:30 in the afternoon. I was on the flight line, and they come on the loudspeakers, and they say, "We have special announcement. Everybody stop what you're doing." And they said, "Stop taking the PTABs immediately." They said, "Repeat, do not take any more PTABs." They said, "Return all remaining PTABs and the supervisors immediately." They said, "Do not take any more PTABs. Do not destroy PTABs. Turn all remaining PTABs in to supervisors now."
That is just unbelievable. Here, take them because you got to take them. Now turn them back in because we know it's going to do something wrong to you.
Right. And when they started making us take it, it just kind of a gut feeling told me, is like, this ain't good. I mean, nobody knew anything about them. Nobody knew nothing. Only thing we knew is they were white and they were sealed, and we was going to take them regardless. We didn't have any way to research them back then. There was no cell phones, no internet, no nothing. Just something told me, said that later on down the road, this is not going to be good. But I thought, you know what? My government's telling me take it. I love my country, and I love my job. I love the Air Force, and I'm going to take it. I'm going to trust them anyway. Even though I don't have a good feeling, I'm going to trust them anyway. And then the day they come on the loudspeakers and they said, "Stop taking the PTABs immediately," my heart sank. I thought, dear God, I thought, now I'm screwed. And I thought, I know I'm screwed. How long is it going to be? What's the delay before I start getting whatever freaking side effects? And I knew something was going to happen, but I didn't know what. So I just tried to block it and forget it. We also, during that month, I believe it was during that same month, don't quote me on that, but we was out on a flight line one afternoon, and it seems like around 6 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the afternoon, they started erecting a tent, a 14-man tent, like we slept in on the flight line, by the last hangar, and by our main hangar. And I thought, my God, why would they do this? What is? And we didn't know. We had never seen anybody do this. And they put 4 tables, one on each side in each corner, and then at 9 o'clock, they commanded everybody get up, form up. Everybody form lines. We formed one line. It was getting too long. They said, form 2 lines, form 3, whatever you got to do. And I said, hey, we formed up at the tent, and I said, hey, what's going on? And I said, what are we forming up for? One of the sergeants, I can't remember who it was, but he said, don't worry about it. It's none of your effing business. So I said, okay, and of course, big mouth. I was the only one that said anything. Nobody said anything. We just like sheep, line up, and don't say anything, start going through the line. They wanted us to go through the line at the first right-hand table, go to the second right-hand table, go across the tent, go to the third one, come back to the fourth one, and don't stop the flow. Keep the flow going. And don't ask questions, and took the first shot, and just like the PTABs, I'm like, my God, man. I'm like, man, what are they trying to kill us, twice as quick? I mean, I knew this was not good.
Right.
Shot records. I mean, there was nobody annotating anything. I'm like, so the second shot, is a beautiful nurse. I'm like, hey, what's going on here? And she said, keep your mouth shut. It's none of your effing business. I said, yeah, it is my business. I said, it's my body. And I said, I've had enough. I said, I'm not taking no more of these shots until I find out what's going on, what this is. She held that needle up and she said, I've been authorized to give you an Article 15 if you don't take this shot. I said, fine. Which cheek do you want? And she goes, bend over.
Right.
Yeah. I'm like, hey, take your pick, sweetheart. So she gave me the shot and she pointed to the next guy and she said, go to him and don't stop the line. I'm like, holy jeez, So I go to this guy and he was a real nice guy. And he's like, hey, I seen what, he goes, I said, yeah, everybody saw what's going on. And I said, I've had enough, man. I said, this is BS. Nobody says anything. I said, I'm the only one that speaks up. I said, man, we're just herded through here. I said, I think we have a right to know. He's like, I agree. But he said, we were strictly told not to discuss anything going on here tonight. He said, we are not to talk about this at all. This never happened. He said, the best advice I can give you is to take the other 2 shots. Don't stop no more and keep going. He goes, let me have your arm. And he gave me his shot and he said, I'm sorry, man. And he was real nice. And I said, yeah, thanks. And I went on the next one and she hurried up and gave me the shot, and because I'd already stopped the line twice now. And that really irritated them. That pissed them off. And everybody else went right on through. Nobody said a word.
Back then we trusted because, the way they did it was through our last names, A through, F, or, then E through this, we kind of went through that. But you made a really good point. Back then, we did trust our government.
Yeah, I would have walked off a cliff for my government if they would have told me so. I love my Air Force. I love the job, man. I was so proud. I volunteered to go to the Gulf. I wasn't even supposed to go. I begged my commander for 15 minutes to go, and there was no slots for me to go. And he said, "You're not going regardless. I don't care." And it just so happened when I was begging to go, there was a guy that was slotted to go, and he was terrified, and he went to the hospital, and he convinced them to put him on sick call for 2 days. So that night, they slotted me in for the flight the next morning with the rest of the group. And at 11:30 that night, they plugged me in, and I left at 5 or 6 that morning. So I'm thankful that I got to go. And that's just the mentality I had. I really wanted to be on the front lines. I wanted to do everything and even more. The government spent so much money training me and they entrusted me with aircraft. Man, I couldn't do enough for my country.
Right. Now, the other day we talked about, the stuff the problems that you're having. So I want everybody to kind of get a good glimpse of everything that you're going through right now.
Yes, sir. Okay. Well, I got chronic fatigue, which I've had I started noticing it about 4 or 5 years ago. The last year and a half, it's really hit me hard. And this year, it's doubled. I don't know why. I'm thinking, is it because I'm over 50? No, I don't think so. I'm not buying that. I can't prove it, but my dad is 77. He's in much better shape than I am. He rides bicycle many miles every day. My grandfather, when he was 70, he was in really good shape, tip-top shape, worked and everything every day. It's not in my DNA to have chronic fatigue at 50, 54, 53, 55 years old. I've got rheumatoid arthritis, and they say it's in, how did my rheumatologist in St. Louis word it? He said, you are in stage 3 or 4. He said, you are advanced. And I've got osteoarthritis, which means my back hurts in the lower back. That's from an injury I had boot camp, but it hurts. Maybe that might be why it's hurting so bad all these years. I don't know. I can't tell. But I noticed in the last year, it started hurting in the middle of my back, and they said that it would. And it's hurting up in the top, like between my shoulder blades and above too, and it never did before. I've got real bad short-term memory loss. Can I give some examples?
Yeah, that's what I want.
Well, like I will lock my door and leave. I'll get 25 feet to my car, and I'm like, geez, I didn't lock the door. Wait a minute, I did. I don't know if I did or not. I don't know. And I'll have to come back, and I lock the door. Sometimes I didn't. And I can't remember. 25 feet away, I can't remember. The other day, when I got home, I left the door open and the keys in the ignition, or I left the key in the car, and I went in the garage to do something. I closed the garage and came in, and my neighbor called me the next morning, 9:00. He said, "Hey, are you at home?" I said, "Yeah, why?" And he goes, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Sure, why? What's going on?" He's like, "Well, your car door is open." And it was open at 7:00, and it's still open now at 9. And I'm like, "Oh, geez, man." I had my everything in there. I just open invitation for somebody to just sit in my car and take off, with all my stuff. And, and that stuff is embarrassing, and I forget things worked. I forget people's names. And I used to never do this. My mind was so sharp and alert. And so this, I can really tell a significant difference in the last couple of years. This is definitely not me. I have problems holding on to things. I'll be holding on to my keys, or I'll be holding on to something, and they'll just fall out of my hand. I don't know. I mean, they just slip out, and that's definitely not normal. The outsides of my thighs have been numb for, oh gosh, 25 years. It's almost since when I got out, probably about 3 or 4 years after I got out of the Air Force. Mid-90s, they become numb, and they're numb now, just the same. And I thought, well, what the hell? I don't know, just deal with it and go on. I got gout real bad. Is this contributed to all this stuff over there? I don't know. I mean, there was oil fields burning. There was black soot flying around. It covered the jets every day at night, all night. It got all over your face and every food, everything, is that contributing to what's going on? Who knows? It didn't help. I mean, it's not extending my life.
Right.
But just this chronic fatigue, the rheumatoid arthritis, the osteoarthritis. I've got sleep apnea. Oh, geez, I don't know. I take like 11, 12 pills a day. I know there's other things. I just can't think of them right now. PTSD. I've got that. I've got all kind of fun stuff. It's very depressing.
What's amazing is everything you said, they're all considered under presumptive. And so especially like the sleep apnea, they're finding out is it could be from now I think they added 2 new sinuses and something else to do with the sinus cavity that are now under presumptive under the Gulf War. I mean, I live in Texas, and it's the humidity and sinuses are just what we deal with down here. But the sleep apnea with the CPAP machine and all that, the VA, that's all covered, along with the arthritis, along with the chronic fatigue, definitely, your digestive system, your kidneys, your lungs. I mean, everything. I went through, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, I went through a whole thing on presumptives that were out there. But what amazes me is when, like, you're talking about the numbness. I have numbness that go up my leg and everything, and 3 of my fingers on both sides are go numb. I'm used to it, but it's just one of them things. It's like, okay, do we live with it? They got research out there trying to figure out what's going on with us. And I found a lady for neuropathy that actually says that she can't cure it, but what she can do is she can inject B12 into the feet to stop all the numbness and the pain that I have.
Nice.
But the VA won't cover it.
Hmm.
They won't even do it. That part I don't understand. I mean, the doctor says, oh, it doesn't work. Well, how do you know it doesn't work unless, go look at this lady's, bio, go,
Right.
And that's the thing that I think that drives me the craziest is, let's do experiment again on us to fix the stuff. I wouldn't mind that. Now, I don't want any experimental vaccines and that comes out of the VA or anything like that. And, and I hear a lot of people talking about they're going to mandate everybody get vaccine. That's all fine and dandy. But, the military really isn't allowed to experiment anymore on the troops. But they found a way around it, and I figured this out. It's for emergency uses. It isn't experimental to them. It's an emergency use. So that gives them the authorization to do this. And I did hear the Marines aren't going to do it. The Marines aren't going to make their people get it, which I think, I hope that is 100% true.
Yes.
And I don't believe any way, any shape or form, you should make anybody do anything they don't want to do unless you're going to sign a waiver saying, hey, you know what, you take this, and if it causes you harm later on down the road, we'll take care of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, people in businesses, there is reasons you shouldn't take experimental vaccines until FDA approves them.
Right. And that takes us right back to what you and I experienced. The only waivers we had was 4 Article 15s waved in our face, say, hey, this is your alternative. You don't have to take them, but you can be court-martialed instead, because it only takes two 15s to get you court-martialed. And if we would have refused 2 of those shots, they said that would have been enough.
See, and that's what I find crazy. Some people. I talked to vets that has 6 Amtrak shots. Well, I could tell you that looking at the data and everything else, there were over 30,000 troops that died, and they said that was from the Amtrak shot. I'm like, okay, well, if you knew that, then why did you keep going with it? That's why in 2003, the Washington, D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals said, hey, you can't do this anymore. You can't mandate this stuff. And that's the thing that's burning my ass right now is the fact that if they knew something was wrong with it back then, they knew them troops were, having problems. If they were following us in 1995, why'd they keep going with it? It makes no sense. Hey, we're going to follow 680,000 of the Desert Shield, Desert Storm guys and the Gulf guys, Southern Watch. So let's follow these suckers around, and because we know they're going to have all kind of neurological problems. They're going to have Parkinson's. It's like, wait, why didn't y'all tell us? Back then, 95, we could have been at least saying, well, hey, man, let's do research. Let's figure out what's going on.
Exactly. And we would have.
Exactly.
We would have been in every library we could find,
Right. And there are people out there that are naysayers. Oh, this never happened. The Gulf War vets are crying wolf and this, and this. Well, I'll tell you what, they can have my feet. That's what I tell them. Come out of my feet.
They can take. I'll donate free of charge my rheumatoid arthritis and my chronic fatigue. They can have.
Right. At least they figured out mine's from my B12. I'm grateful for that. That's the one thing I will give the VA. I had more tests done on me than anybody around. Mm-hmm. And I've had 3 MRIs. I had 2 CT scans. I had x-rays after x-ray, and then blood work after blood work until they finally figured it out. And that's what I'm telling to, all it isn't just the Desert Storm vets. It's also, the Afghanistan guys,
Mhm.
you have no idea. They could have had other stuff, out there,
Absolutely.
yeah, like for sand fleas, all the experimental, pesticides, and
Right,
which
right.
I do know. I think the Air Force and Army guys and the Marines during Desert Storm use pesticides too out there.
I've still got some of it.
Really?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, I've got a tube. We had a tube of cream, and we had a small bottle of the liquid. I've still got one of each.
Wow.
Yeah,
Doesn't it make you want to go get them tested just to see what's inside?
I'm afraid to really, because we rubbed it on our faces, and we eat. We rub it on all over. Then we'd eat chow, and I mean, oh geez, you just And you was talking about MRIs. You've only had three.
That's
Oh
it.
gosh, I've had two in one day. I've had my entire body MRI'd, and the last thing I had MRI'd was my brain. And I'd like to have that. I'd like to have someone to analyze that, and because they were just because the back of my neck has been hurting for years, and I think they were looking for a tumor, and they said you're fine, and so there's no tumor. But I would like to see if one of these days if they if they can find something else, because of the short-term memory. And you mentioned something a while ago, and I'm not just trying to make stuff up, but I forget things. But when you say it, I remember
Right.
easily. When I'm at nighttime, when I wake up, 'cause I sleep like I wake up every 1 to 2 hours, and then I'll stay up for an hour or two, and then I might, then usually by 4 or 5 o'clock, I might get 3, maybe 4 hours of sleep if I'm lucky. But I'm up every hour to 2 hours. But when I wake up, sometimes I'll feel my hands shaking, but they're not moving. But I can feel them moving. I know that don't make sense, but I can feel the shaking. But my fingers are not physically moving back and forth. But I can feel it inside my fingers,
Right.
and it's weird. I mean, I know, and I'm thinking, man, is it coming? Where is the movement? When's my hand going to start flopping back and forth? And I can feel them moving back and forth inside, but the physical, my fingers are not moving, but I can feel that. So that scares me, because I'm like, okay, so is that something I've got to look forward to in the future? I hope not.
Right, right. And that's just exactly what you're saying is, my hands have shaked for a long time, but I've noticed lately that my head does now. My head starts bobbing back and forth. So I'm
Hmm.
actually, I have an appointment anyway with a neurologist next week. I'm going to ask him about, could it be the medicine? Because that's why I start noticing it is when they put me on the Lyrica.
Hmm.
But overall, with every single thing that the vets are going through, I mean, you can look back about. I mean, at least my experience, and I even know you were telling me you were praising how well that the VA's done for you. And I mean, I do give the VA a lot of credit for helping us. I just wish that the researcher would come out with a definite, okay, hey guys, this is exactly what caused it. Now let's look for how we can reverse it.
Yes, yes. And something, of course, oh gosh, this was back, I think in 2013. 2013, I did some kind of Gulf War something survey or something. It wasn't a registry. Yeah, it might have been a registry, and I wasn't having very many symptoms back then, and but one thing that really irritated me was they said, "Was you around any oil, like soot or anything?" I said, "Yeah, there was a lot of it. I mean, the sky was just darkened." And I said, on the flight line, 2.5 hours, you could go in and wash my face and my hands, and it was just black running down into the sink, and the lady doing the interview seemed like that was irrelevant. And and she said, and I said, every morning when we got up at 7 o'clock and we was out on our jets, the whole jet would be enveloped in a film of black soot. So we'd have to wipe off everything with the black soot before we flew. And she didn't even act like I spoke. And I said, you got that down, right? She said, yeah, I got it, whatever. And then 2 weeks later, she got the results, and it said, you were not in any danger. You had you was not in any hazardous area, and you're perfectly fine. And I thought, well, ain't that great? I thought, outstanding, and I thought they don't even give a rip. So they have come a long way, because
Right.
they didn't, they just said, yeah, you wasn't in any danger. There was no hazards. You're fine, So now at least they have acknowledged the fact that, hey, there was some bad mojo over there,
Well, yeah, I remember back in '95 when the doctor was in there, and this guy walks in, wanted me to sign paperwork saying I never was exposed to any type of chemicals, and he's like, he's not signing that.
Right.
I mean, that doctor back then even wrote a letter saying the conditions of the Gulf War it is the reason for his problems, despite if it's chemicals or something we were ingested with and put in our arms or butts or whatever that they gave us. Nobody knows. I mean, right now, something caused it. And let me tell you, if the Gulf War vets didn't have a problem, this is how I want every one of the listeners out there listening to this. If the Gulf War vets do not have a problem, then why are there presumptives written down for the Gulf War vets, just like the Vietnam vets? That's how every one of my listeners need to understand. If there was nothing wrong with the Gulf War veterans, then why are there presumptives? Because they know we were exposed to something.
That's right.
And I mean, that's the best way of looking at it.
Yeah.
And I mean, despite, I wouldn't take one day back of what I did in the military. I loved it. Everything I did, it made me appreciate America even more. But now it makes me appreciate even more the medical people, the researchers. I want them to find a cure. I want them to say, hey, you know what? We're going to do this. We're going to find out this. And there are a lot of medical people outside of the VA, but half the problem is Congress won't fund them. We got to fight for funding, just like 9/11 has to fight for funding. Why? Why should any of us have to fight for funding?
The Taliban don't have to fight for funding, though.
Oh, you're damn right. You're damn right about that.
Right in their freaking lap.
I mean, oh man, yeah, boy, that is a sore subject.
It'd go along with research for us,
Right. But I'll guarantee you that over there, oh yeah, anything you need, here's $1 billion. Oh, but the Gulf War vets, you don't get jack dilly shit.
Yeah, and we're done with you. XP3 moved and replaced.
That's so true. But here's the one thing I do know: there's a lot more of the veterans coming out now, starting to say, "Hey, something isn't right." There are bodies. I mean, even in that report, that doctor, and I'm going to put this up on our website right here. And I'm going to try to get it up on Facebook. I want everybody to go in and listen to your story, but listen to what that doctor says afterwards. Veterans, the Gulf War veterans are aging faster than normal.
Yep, I did see that. Yep. That makes you feel good, don't it?
Oh man. Well, you know what? I mean, yeah. My brothers probably love it.
Well, my dad does. I told you on the interview in that on TV. I said my dad even jokes around. And one of his friends, even made the comment. Hey, is this your baby brother? I didn't know you had another one. He goes, no, it's my son. I'm like, thanks a lot, prick. You know,
Right.
I love you. I'm like, I don't love you. You know,
Right.
You know,
when I got out of the service, this one lady was like, "Are y'all twins?" And this talking about my older brother, and I'm like, "No." And dumb me had to say, "Hey, who do you think sold her?" And they said, "Of course you. You look like you've been through a war and back." And I was like, "Well, you know."
Well, now say that.
Yeah. Oh, we let her know. And then she felt bad, but you know,
Right.
I was like, it is what it is. You know, heck, I'm 50 years old.
Yeah.
Now, all I care about is getting the word out there. That's all I care about. I want the word out there. I want a legacy to leave behind for every kid that goes in the military to understand what they did to Vietnam and the Gulf War veterans and the Iraqi freedom guys should never happen.
Right.
And that's why we got to put in the politicians, no matter what side you're on, we got to put in the right politicians that give a crap about our veterans.
Yes. Amen.
And I mean, you could take it. I mean, hey, I know a few Democrat guys that love the veterans. I know a few Republicans. It's the ones that don't give a crap about us, you know. And I hate to say this, and I tell kids this, and this is going to cause some controversy, but I'm going to say it. I think it's funny. It's the people who protested the Vietnam War that's running our country right now.
Yep.
That's why I tell them. I was like, don't blame the Desert Storm guys or anybody's been in the military, you know, during Vietnam. Blame the ones that protest. This is where we're at. This is why it takes them so long. They let a whole bunch of veterans die off. And then they come out and say, oh, we screwed you up with Agent Orange, or, you know, we screwed you up with anthrax or PTABs and all that.
Have you ever considered us modern day Vietnam vets? That's
no.
I've felt that because, you know, because we're just waiting around, waiting to see what's, you know, and now we're starting to see the results of what they did to us.
Oh, yeah, that part. Yeah. I can see that part.
Yeah, that's what I mean, because they told them back then Agent Orange was perfectly safe. You know, I've talked to GIs that was in Vietnam, and they said it was raining. You know, it would be dripping off the bill of their hat right onto their nose, and they were drinking it. They were eating it when they drank water, and they said, who cares? There's nothing wrong with it. You know, then 40 years later, 50 years later, man, they're dying from it. And then, you know, now they've said before all these years, there's nothing, you wasn't exposed to anything over there. And I'm just wondering all these years, I'm like, are we going to be like the Vietnam vets? You know, we're just sitting there. Are they telling the truth or not? Well, they wasn't.
Right.
Now,
exactly.
Starting to catch up to our version of the, you know, and even one gentleman told me last year, and he was in Florida. He was in the Gulf too, and he said that that I can't remember if it was the pills or the shots, but it was part of Agent Orange, only in a different form that we ingested.
Oh, I believe it.
Yep. And he said we was exposed to 150 different toxins. I remember him telling me.
I have a real good buddy of mine that I've known for a while. I'll call him Mike, which his name is Mike. But, you know, I've known him for a while. And, you know, he has cancer. And what's so funny is after he had cancer, he had both of his hips replaced. And his doctor up at the hospital, regular hospital, was like, oh, did you break your ankle? He goes, yeah, I did in the service. He goes, well, that's what messed up your hip. It's been 5 years, and the VA's like, no, that's not your problem. They send him off now. See, this is one thing I'll tell you. I don't like VES. I like LHI, but VES, they don't even examine you. When you walk into a VES, and that's Veterans Evaluation Services. These are the people that tell you if you're connected or not.
Right.
They sit down and they'll type on the computer and say, oh yeah, yeah, you got this. Yeah, you got this. You got that. And you're just like, man, you haven't even examined me. Then when you get your report back, it's denied because they're saying they examined you and didn't even examine you. And I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, I just had lab work done today through VES, and I had an exam for chronic fatigue on March 9th, and through VES, and the VA is still saying they have never received that report. And I'm like, well, that's odd, because every CMP exam I've had in the last year and a half, they've had the results within 3 days.
Right. And let me tell you something. And for every veteran out there listening to me that's going to go into VES or LHI, when the first thing they say to you is when they call your name and you get up, they're going to say, how are you doing today? You don't tell them you're doing good, because as soon as you tell them you're doing good, that takes everything else off the table.
Oh, yeah.
That's it's so weird, but it's true. I mean, you could have a broke arm and they say, hey, how you doing today? Good. Well, you don't have a broke arm. It's true. I mean, I hate to say it.
Veteran states he is feeling great. Veteran doing good today.
Yeah. If I walk in there, I'm like, okay. Yeah, that's all I say until I get in there. But now I say I want an examination done on me, and I record it, because in the state of Texas, you can record. And so I record it, so that way I know for a fact. I mean, and these doctors here are like, hey, you got neuropathy, or have you filed for neuropathy? Oh, yeah, I filed for neuropathy. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, you need to file for it, because I'll guarantee you'll get it. And then they'll put you down saying he doesn't have neuropathy. I'm like, well, I'm serious. I got him recorded saying it.
Yeah. Oh, I've had them tell me I've got all kinds of stuff, but I don't know what the results are. I didn't know what they put down,
Right. And a buddy of mine that I talked to last week named Aaron, me and Aaron, he didn't even know about the burn pits or anything like that. He filed and they already granted him burn pit. So nice. Yeah, which is fantastic. So he goes in for his exam and he gets all that done. I'm helping him along the way. So if any of the listeners are wondering what's going on with Aaron, I'm working with him. It's going to be probably every 3 days I'm going to talk to him. But he didn't understand. He was like, he had seizures. He had all this stuff. It's like, this guy, when we were kids, he was the Incredible Hulk. I am not kidding you. This guy could lift anything like no problem. And you should see him till today. It's just, our bodies go through changes, which I understand. Being 50 years old, we're going to have some aches and pains. But when I was 30-something years old, I had them aches and pains then too.
Right. Yep.
And a lot of guys were talking about, like I talked to one veteran that he didn't want to be on, but me and him were talking. And he literally told me that his wife left him because she was tired of him not being able to do anything.
That's sad.
And right. And, there's a lot of these vets that are coming home. And so I think this is where all the families out there, I think everybody should hear what I'm about to say. I'm not just talking about Gulf War vets. I'm not talking about Vietnam vets. I'm not talking about just Iraqi freedom vets. I'm talking about the ones who are overseas that fight in a battle when they first come home. They need time to adjust. Y'all have to help them adjust. And so that's where counseling comes in. And I think a lot of people should go. And I don't think you should just do VA counseling. I think you should do outside counseling, Christian counseling.
Yes.
I put my faith 100% in God. And I mean, some people may say it's controversy. I don't care. I talk about them all the time. Right. But I want everybody to understand, when these guys come home, and you'll understand what I'm saying, we're not the same anymore. We're not this, and we will never be the same. We will always have that military bloodline in us. And And so people need to understand that in my perspective and most veterans' perspective is when you've been through a war, you talk about the good stuff. You don't talk about the bad. And that's where the veterans need to not mess up. They need to go to a counselor and talk to them. I mean, I could talk to only probably maybe 3 people about what I've really been through. And because I told them when I first got out. And so my family now is learning more and more about, the stuff I went through. There's still some stuff I haven't talked about, but overall, it will come out in this broadcast over time. It will. And, I just really wish the veterans would, and their families, go out and seek counseling and help each other.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I'm really glad you brought that up because I'm like you. I've sat a real quiet room before, and I've thought, and I've been divorced twice, and I've sat there and thought for a long, long time. I thought, what happened? Why am I not the cheerful, happy, party? Like I was the life of the party. What happened? Where did I go? And I'm so glad that you mentioned when we come home that, to get therapy from the VA, but get it also, it's imperative that we get it from Christian counseling too. Someone that is Bible based, not just any Christian, but someone that believes in the Holy Bible. And because if I would have received that, I truly believe that as I sit here 55 years old today, I would be a totally different person.
I agree 100%.
Because we were done. I'm assuming you were like me. We were dumped out with a 214 and a handful of medals, and they was like, good luck. And that's basically it. They slowed the bus, and they kicked us off, and took off. We're standing there like, wow, I got to go back to where I left off. Hell, I'm not even the same person. How do I do this? And it's crazy. And if we would have had that counseling like you're talking about, it'd have made 110% the difference.
Oh yeah. I definitely believe it would. I know it would. I've experienced when I first got out. I'm telling you, my mom was like, "You need to go see a counselor." I went. I did counseling for about two years. But I didn't go in the beginning. I went once a week, then I went once every other week, then once a month. But I got to seek something and it was with the United Way. And I credit United Way. That I was like, this lady, her name was Deborah. She was fantastic. And I credit her for exactly. I mean, in about 2 years, I started going, you know what? I mean, now I know I'm the happy-go-lucky guy I used to be. I mean, there's still parts of the military that, I'm not so happy-go-lucky with them and everything, especially shots and PTABs and neuropathy and kidney problems and, all sorts of crap. But, hey, I'm going to live my day as it's my last. God is probably the biggest helper you can have.
I beg to differ on that. He definitely is.
Well, yeah, that's true. He definitely is the biggest helper.
Get around. Let's go towards. Yeah, but you're very fortunate. You're much better off than I am, brother. I'm not the same person, and I don't see how I could ever be. I would like to be the same person. I'd like to even go back to 50%. I had no therapy for a long time. I refused to go to therapy because to me, therapy was spineless. That was weak.
Yeah, and pride.
Man. And so my therapy, I'd go out in the woods and I'd go hunting and I'd sit there and cry.
Yeah.
And nobody knew it and didn't have to prove nothing. Nobody didn't have to explain squat.
Right.
But it was very painful.
But that's where a lot of vets are. That's where a lot of veterans are, that they don't have anybody. That's one of the reasons I was actually asked to not do the podcast anymore. I got an email, and it was from an analyst or a researcher, and said, look, you shouldn't be doing a podcast, this, you need to do it like this. We want it done at just researchers and this. Hey, researchers are great. I would love to have some of them on, but I want the veterans on. That's what I want on my show. I don't want to do about just research. I want to do what's good for the veterans. Let the veterans get the voice out. Let us all keep in touch. We're one big family. We all need to help each other like we're one big family.
Yeah, I like that. Researchers are great. Doctors are great. Social workers are great, but they're not GIs.
Right.
And
who's better to understand your problem?
Right. Yeah, we can relate to each other in ways that nobody else can.
Exactly.
If anybody wants to reach out to me through you, I don't know why they would, but if they do, then you can feel free to give them my phone number, and we can text and talk or whatever.
Oh yeah. Hey, I'll tell you what, you have an amazing story. That's why I'm going to put that on the website. I'm going to put it up on Facebook, because it is an amazing story, and I hope it reaches a lot of veterans out there. And if you can get a hold of Mark, give him my information, I would love to talk to him.
Yes, I will. I'll connect you together.
Yeah, and everybody who's listening to the program, Veterans Day is going to be coming up not that long, in about a month, a little bit over a month. Yeah, well, actually 2 months, a little less than 2 months. But on Veterans Day, thank them, give them a hug, tell them, hey, you know what? Just thinking about you. That's all the veterans would want. The veterans don't want handouts. They don't want money. What they want is help. And if you, I tell everybody, if you want help and you want to call me, I understand the VA does have a crisis line on the 1-800-827-1000. Call the crisis line there. VA's there. If you don't, man, if anybody wants my phone number or anybody really wants to talk, hell, Stephen, call me. Call Stephen.
That's right. Yep.
And everything. And, I thought about giving my phone number out on the podcast, but I'm not quite sure, because I probably get a lot of prank calls.
Yeah, I don't want to. But if someone just kind of believing in faith, if someone is true enough to say, hey, I would like to reach out to you or me or whoever, then I would be willing to take that chance,
Right. And I don't know if you remember, but one of the reasons I reached out is because on that interview, towards the very end, you felt like, when you said, I feel like I'm all alone. I am telling you that right there was like, man, I need to get a hold of him. I wasn't the only one. Best buddy Todd, he was like, you need to get a hold of this guy.
Mm-hmm.
You need to get out there and get in touch with him. I was like, I do. And I searched, and it took me 2 days to figure out, okay. And I'm not computer, I'm computer illiterate. I'll be honest with you. I don't know much about it. That's why I have my son help me podcast, because, thanks to him, I can get the word out there. And, but it's been fantastic. The experience has helped me a lot too.
I've got his name. Can I give it to you?
Yeah.
Is Mark Hyman, Hyman.
Okay.
And the name of his show is Inside Your World Investigates.
Okay.
So that's the thing that the program that he put me on or under.
Right. And if it wasn't for Mark, we would never, I would have never known who you were.
Right. And he really went above and beyond, because out of hundreds and hundreds of comments of GIs commenting on, hey, has anybody done this? Yeah, but really I'm experiencing this, that, and the other. I just threw on there and said, hey, has anybody got rheumatoid arthritis, man? Does anybody's joints freaking feel like they're, like they're getting to seize up, with and I'm experiencing this and that, and I can't remember what I mentioned, but he took my comment and got a hold of me somehow. I don't know how he got a hold. He called me. He got my number and called me, because he never got a hold of me through Facebook, but he got my number and called me, and he called several times, and I just thought his prank caller. Finally, he talked to me, and I said, oh, "Okay, great," because I get so many calls a day. I mean, who can keep up? But it was very very humbling how he pursued, to do a story with me, and I'll never forget it, and I'll never forget you reaching out to me and let me do this too, because I want to get the story out just like you.
Right. I want everybody to know in this world that we're not going to stand by and let it happen anymore. I want to stand in front of Congress. I would love to stand in front of Congress and explain my story. That's all we want to do. We want them to hear us. We want them to say, hey, you know what? What's going on with you? What has happened? I reached out to Congressman Green. I've reached out, I'm waiting for all these people to contact me back. I was like, come listen to my podcast. Why don't y'all come out? If y'all truly care about the veterans, put us on.
Mm-hmm.
Show it. I want people to fight for the veterans. I want people to fight for America. That's all I'm asking for. I'm not asking for anything else.
And that's not much. That's not asking for much.
Much at all. It's not. It's very simple. But I really and truly 100% want to thank you for coming on the show. And thank you for going on the air with your story.
Well, thank you for allowing me this wonderful opportunity. And I hope, as you, that this does clarify some things to people, because when I worked, I don't work now because of my disabilities. I quit working in January. They told me they didn't have any work for me anymore due to my restrictions or whatever. And but the people at the Marion, Illinois VA, they would mock me and make fun of me, and they said, "Well, there's nothing wrong with him. He's just fake. He's just trying to get a free ride."
Right.
And that's not a good feeling for somebody that used to bench press almost 300 pounds, and somebody that's worked, hard physically since I was 10 years old. I mean, that's a hard pill to swallow, and, not be able to do anything back. And, but, hopefully this story and many other GIs like us telling people, saying, hey, this is what's going on. Maybe people will finally start thinking, maybe there is something to this. Maybe they wasn't faking. So I appreciate the opportunity to put my 2 cents in.
No problem. I mean, I want people from Europe. I want people from Australia, Spain, anywhere who was over there, Belgium, anybody who was over there during the Gulf War. I want them on this podcast. I want the American people to understand that it wasn't just us, it's everybody around the world. Yes. I want them to come on this podcast, talk to me. I may have to ask them a couple of other questions because I may not be able to understand perfectly what they're saying, but I want them on here. I want them to come tell their story. So yeah. if they're listening, I want them.
Well, that sure is a wonderful opportunity. I'm so grateful that you allowed me to tell my story, because this should not be the way I am today.
I agree 100%. And hopefully one day they'll come up with something and give us a confirmed answer.
Yeah.
But,
magic shot or magic pill that'll take all of it away.
Right. That ain't ever going to happen.
Yeah, we are not. Yeah, I know, but it looks good on paper.
That's right. Well, Stephen, I want you to have a great evening. We're going to stay in contact, okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Brother Kevin. I appreciate you very much.
All right. And anytime I get news on new presumptives, I'll go let you know, okay?
Okay, thank you. And thank you to all of our listeners. We really appreciate everybody.
Thank you. You have a great day.
Okay, you too, brother. Thank you.
Thank you. I really want to thank Stephen for being on the show. I want to thank all the broadcasters, all them guys that allowed him to tell his story on, live TV. And I'm grateful for Todd and up in Abilene, all them for replaying the story. But if any veteran out there, I don't care if you're overseas, around the world, email me at kevinsimon@gulfwarsideeffects.com. Please come on to the show. Come and tell your story. Let the world know exactly what you've experienced. So thank you so much for listening to the program. Until next week, thank you.